Hello friends, welcome to this week's $5 craft. We're going to do a little demonstration today, and then I invite you guys to come out within this next week and make the craft yourself. So today's theme is several ways to make a rainbow, and I'm really excited to share with you because it's going to be a lot of fun. So I'm going to be doing a slightly different technique today, and I actually took some extra time. Oh, and I just realized, oh no, I need the die cut machine. And I wanted to actually cut out pieces to make a rainbow. I need to grab my die cut. There we go. Oh, thank you, Linda. Sure. Okay, so what we're doing here is I have my die cut machine, and what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to take my nesting circle die cuts, and I'm going to be cutting them out. And so the nesting circle die cuts that I like to use are the ones from Hero Arts, and that is this side right here. Whoops. So this is the circle set that I'm using. Now when I'm going to make a rainbow, what I need to do is I'm going to cut this out of acetate. And acetate is this piece of plastic right here, so just plastic piece. And I want to cut some of my circles out of here. So in order to make a nice masking piece for doing this, what I need to do, or it could be a masking piece, we're going to cut it out of acetate and I'm going to show you how I'm going to use it. But what I'm going to start with here is I'm going to take out my little circles, and I want to make sure I get the right size here. I'll show you how I did this. That's the one. So from my little circle set here, what I'm doing is I'm lining all of these up, and I'm going to take my smallest one and lay that down here. I'm doing it bumpy side down because I'm going to cut these out. And then I'm not picking every circle out of my set. I'm going to do every other one. So not the next one, but the one after that. Not the next one, but the one after that. And we're going to keep doing that until we get to the size, until we get enough to cut out my piece of acetate. And that one, but this one, and that one, but this one. Okay. All right. So that's how we're going to do this. I'm going to put this away really fast. I got those on the back side there. It's nice having the little die cuts all in a magnet. You can just slide those right down. Okay. Yes. So then I've laid them on here, and I'm spacing this out. I know it's kind of hard to see, but I'm spacing this out a little bit so it's even spacing. I'll move this here for you. Oh, maybe I won't. So even spacing like that, so it's all cutting out on the same piece of the acetate. And then I'm going to lay this down so nothing moves. I'm going to roll it through. And so what's happening here is that we're cutting a series of circles all out at the same time, all the nesting circles. So I'm going to lift all of these up here. My die cuts away. Don't lose any of those circles because I use them a lot. It's my most used die cut. I don't know about you guys, but that's what I use. Oh, I forgot one. Don't want that to get lost there. Okay, and then we have this outside piece, which I'm not going to be using. And then all these little inside pieces, all these little circles, which are going to be so great for doing our masking with. So you'll see a bunch of them here. So we have they're kind of wide because we cut them all out at once, and they nested. So you have each of the rings. So they all kind of inlay on themselves like this because again they all match up perfectly. So that's how we're going to kind of lay that out. So what I did, Jake, can you bring me a paper towel? Bring me a roll of paper towels, please. Thank you. So what I did was I actually stuck these onto my acrylic block. So, oh, thank you very much. I'm going to clean this off just so I can explain what I did here. So we have all of our little circles here. So what I pre-cut these earlier. So this piece this is my acetate, my clear block. This piece right here that's sitting on the surface, this is actually called tack and peel. If you have an unmounted stamp, it's what you stick to it, so then you can see through it and you can still stamp. What I'm going to do today is I'm going to start out with the tiniest little circle. I'm going to lay that down kind of close to the bottom here. And what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to lay this on like the shape of a rainbow. So I'm nesting these up one after the other. Again, these are just pieces of acetate, but they're sticking onto my tack and peel piece. Oh, it's not dry because I just sprayed something on here, so it's not. There we go. But your pieces are wet. This will not work, so they have to be dry. There we go. So we're just going to nest those on there, and they're just going to stay in place. And we're going to do that one. Make sure these are dry here. This one on the top. Again, we're just nesting those so they're just all kind of in place. This one. Oops. And we're just matching these up because they had all cut at the same time, so there's not going to be any space in between each of the little sections here. And this is the last one. Okay, so once you have all of those on there, then, and I'm just going to tuck this to the side, to take a look at this if you like. All right, so then we have our card base here. So what I want to do is I want to have a little piece I can do my little art on. So I'm just going to use this little piece here. I'm going to go ahead and cut this down to size. And let's see, I'm going to do 3 inches. Actually, I need to make sure I cut my piece to be big enough for my rainbow. So that needs to be about 3 3/4 there. Okay. So on our little guide right here, this is what we're going to use. We're going to use combo markers today to do this. And so what I'm going to do is I'm actually just going to follow the shapes we already have. So the inside of the rainbow here, I'm going to do red. So I'm just going to color this circle red. And then I'm going to go into orange, and we're going to color the orange. And I'm kind of going with kind of a shape of a rainbow at this point, because if it's too, it's a little bit too circular, then it'll end up just looking like a circle rainbow. We want it to kind of look rainbow shape, where it's just going to be the top part of the arches. Exactly, a traditional kind of rainbow. So I did red, orange, yellow, and again, I'm coloring just inside, just on the guide of where the acetate is, so that it acts as a really easy guide for myself when I'm coloring. That way, I'm not like trying to go outside the lines. Now, if you ever tried to draw your own rainbow, and I did this a lot this morning, I was like, how do you get the perfect arches? Because when you're trying to draw it yourself, it's actually kind of difficult. So for example, I'm just going to do a quick sidebar here just to kind of show you, when you're trying to draw your little arches, sometimes you're great at it, but sometimes it does not match up perfectly, and then it looks kind of awkward, and so it can be kind of hard, and I wanted everyone to be successful that was coming in to make the card. So we have on here, I'm going to do green again at the top, and I'm kind of sticking with all kind of only going down to this part so we get the top part of the arch, and then I'm going to do blue. Again, I'm just kind of coloring in all the way of that little strip there. And then the last one is going to be the purple. Okay.
It's basically your primary colors and your secondary colors.
Yes, I decided to add in purple, even though I shouldn't. I was like, I just love the color so much, I have to. So now that we've drawn our rainbow on the block here, on the pieces of acetate, now we're going to take our spritz bottle of water. We're just going to spritz it, and when we're doing that, it's activating the colors, and so what's going to happen is when we stamp it, it's going to have a watercolor effect. So we're not totally saturating it, we don't want it to pool up, but we have activated all the colors. Now we're going to line this up. I'm going to aim towards the top here, not towards the bottom, and I'm just going to press that down. And as I press down the even pressure, because it's on that squishy tack and peel kind of a surface, it's actually going to give you kind of a watercolor, kind of a rainbow effect. Now I'm seeing here that I didn't have quite enough blue, so I'm just going to reline this up and re-spritz it because I really want my blue on there. Line it up again, right there, and I'm going to just squish out a little bit more blue, and we both get a little more blue in there. And if it's not perfect, it's totally okay, because again, it's a watercolor effect. A watercolor rainbow is what we're going for. Okay, now I'm going to take my cloud stencil, which I love so much, and we were talking about oxide inks earlier. Oxide inks are the inks that stay wet longer, and I want to have a little cloud here at the bottom of my little rainbow. And so I'm just going to kind of lay down my little cloud, and you can kind of do whatever you'd like here. If you want it to be more of one side more than the other, you can do that. I'm going to do probably a couple layers. So what I'm going to do is I'm just very softly brushing on a little bit of this blue ink. This is going to be Peacock Feathers blue ink along the bottom there, and I'm just going to kind of scoot this over a little bit, and I'm going to do a little bit more. Make a little bit darker in some areas. My paper got a little bit wet here when I did my watercolor, but that is a-okay. And I'm going to do a little bit kind of at the top corners as well. And that way we have kind of our watercolor effect. I'm going to do a little bit at the bottom here. So we have kind of our cute little rainbow. Now, on our paper here, I'm going to go ahead and just clean my surface. And if you wanted this to be more perfect, of course, you could go in with your markers and you could color in with the guide that they have that the stencil had laid down there for you. But it is nice to be able to just kind of do cute little watercolor rainbow. And so then on my paper itself, right onto the card base, I want to do a different variation of the rainbow with the Tombow markers. Now, if you've used Tombow markers before, you know they move with water, which is amazing. So what we're going to do here is I'm going to color with yellow, And then I'm going to go into my orange. I'm just going to color, I'm coloring directly onto this paper here. And I'm going on to the red. And then we'll go blend into the purple. Whoops. And then we're going to do a little bit of blue. And we'll do some green. Okay, and so then I'm going to take my water brush here. And Tombow markers blend beautifully with water. I absolutely love the effect. I'm going to start with yellow. I'm just brushing my watercolor brush right across here, and I'm blending a little bit of the orange into those colors. And I'm kind of moving my brush around to kind of get this kind of blend between the colors here. A little bit of the purple to the blue, a little bit of the blue into the green. That way you just have a little bit more of kind of a nice little blend there. And we'll have a little bit of green kind of come down here. So it's just adding a little bit of color in there, just so you have your little fun little rainbow on the side. And I might as well, yeah, we'll just stop there. And then I'm actually going to do a little bit of some dots because I love to do little dot work. I always kind of think maybe the dots kind of look a little bit like splatter a little bit. So I'm just doing tiny little dots with the other side of my Tombow marker, because even if you don't actually do a splatter, I love the look that it's maybe kind of encouraging the idea of splatter, because it's just kind of fun. I used to do dot groupings a lot when I was doing face painting, because dot groupings just really make something look like there's more there. It's not just on the background, not just kind of stark and plain and boring. Okay. And then we'll do the yellow. I decided not to go with like the true lemon yellow, just because the true lemon yellow is sometimes kind of hard to see on a white background. This happens to me a lot. So I decided to go with more of like a little bit more of a brighter yellow there.
Brighter green.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, it's kind of more of the yellow, the orange yellow, just a tiny little bit. Okay, so now over here, I'm going to cut out a piece of, this is going to be chrome coat. Chrome coat is that paper that's glossy on one side and not glossy on the other. This is referred to as a permeable surface. This is kind of a weird product. If I were to color with these markers, which normally move with water, if I color those on the chrome coat and then let it dry, it will not move. Even if I try to take watercolor pen to it, it will never move because it falls beneath them in. Yeah, it falls beneath the glossy surface, which is it's really fascinating. So now what I'm going to do here is I'm going to cut just a little piece. Now my dimension here is going to be 5 1/4. And I'm probably going to do this. I want to make sure I have enough space for this to mount on here. This was 3 3/4. So I'm going to bring this over, I think, and do just a little background here. Lay this on. Actually, I'm going to bring this down just a little bit smaller. I'll do 3 1/2 by. There we go. Okay. And I'm just going to do a little layering piece here. I wasn't sure what color I was going to use. This is the one I'm going to use. So that was 3 1/2 by 4 by 5. So sheet. 3 1/2. Perfect. All right. So these are going to be my layering pieces here. So we get a nice little even border. It's just a tiny little bit of the blue right behind it. And now, I'm just going to tuck this to the side for just a minute. So now what I'm going to use is my rainbow ink pad. I love this ink pad. I love, love, love it. So what we're going to do here is I'm actually going to take this, I'm going to bring this to the edge right here. I'm just going to kind of smear this across my paper here. And now I need to get to the edge a little bit more because of where my ink pad sits. It's a little funky because I have a little handle there. There we go. All right. So I smooshed the ink pad onto the surface here. Okay. So in case anyone up there is wondering what I did there. Okay. So once I smoosh that onto the surface, now I'm going to take my spray bottle of water and I'm going to spritz this. And I'm actually going to spritz it quite a bit because I do want it to be a little bit more wet than usual. Now I'm going to take it glossy side down and we're going to do a monoprint. This is a technique that Becca actually taught me, and I thought it was very, very, very cool. Isn't that amazing? Oh, the watercolor effect, I love it so much. So when this dries, it's going to be completely waterproof when dry, which is pretty amazing. I'm pulling out just any extra moisture that's sitting on the surface right now, just because I don't want there to be too much moisture on there, but I love that. And I think I actually want to get just a bit more, I don't want the color to move. I'm going to let this dry just a little bit, and I'm going to pick up a little bit more color. When you, if it was still wet when I did this, I don't want the colors to move around much more because I love the color that is happening already. I'm so pleased. So I don't want it to move around too much more because I really don't want it to get too muddy. Okay, that's starting to dry. So now I'm actually going to pick up, let's see if I get this right. I want a little bit more of my blue and purple over here. Let's see if I get it. Oh, just barely. Okay, great. All right, I'm going to continue to let that dry for just a moment. I am so pleased with that. It doesn't always work out perfectly, but sometimes it does.
Always a mystery how it's going to come out.
It is always a mystery, especially with me.
Surprise.
You just never know what you're going to get. You just never know.
A box of chocolates. Huh?
Yeah, I am kind of a box of chocolates. Exactly. It's like, well, it might be perfect or it might not be. And sometimes that's just the way my life goes. Okay, so once we're gonna let that dry, and you can use a heat gun or you can just let it air dry. All right, so now I'm gonna go ahead, I'm gonna lay down my layering piece next with my double-sided tape, I think, because it is a lightweight paper. So we'll do 1, 2, 3, and 4. We're gonna lay that down here. I'm actually going to give myself just a bit more space at the bottom. Actually, I can't because I'm gonna have to do my sentiment. I'm trying to figure out my formatting here. So I'm going to lay this down here first, and then I'm going to lay this down because I love that, but I don't want to take away from my watercolor rainbow that I created. So I actually think I'm going to take this and I'm going to cut around the top of this just to make sure. Let's see if this is going to go the way I want. Hopefully it does, but if it doesn't, that is okay, because sometimes that's just the way my life goes. Sometimes it's not perfect. All right, I think I'm going to tuck that right down there at the bottom, and then I'm going to do my little rainbow sky right behind that, and I am loving that so much. So I'm going to go ahead and adhere this backing piece down. And then I'm going to grab, I think, some pop dots. What was that?
Dry already?
It amazingly is dry already, which is shocking. It's shocking because it's a glossy
Exactly.
background. You would not expect it.
No,
So we're gonna lay that down next. I know, it's always, you just never know. Never know if it's gonna work or not, especially with me, you just never know. All right, and then I'm gonna lay this down right here on top of this. Whoops. Oh, I think I need to bring that down just slightly. Make sure it'll actually fit on there. There we go. I want that edge to be right to the edge there, edge to edge. Perfect. I'm going to grab some pop dots and we're going to pop that up on the top there, and then we're going to stamp in our sentiment and we'll be good. Hey, Jay. There you go. Oh, you were just amazing. Thank you very much. All right, so I'm going to take a couple pop dots. We're just going to lay that one down there. And we're going to lay this guy down here. And we're just going to tuck that up over the top there. And then we have our little sentiment. Here we are, and it says, "Have a happy day." So with our little stamp here, you can kind of decide if you want to have it at the bottom, you want to have it at the top. You can even, like, let's see if I can actually curve this. Because you can, I know, isn't that amazing? Yeah, when you have your clear stamps, you can actually curve them, which is incredible. So then you can even stamp in the rainbow if you wanted to.
Yeah.
I know, there's so many amazing choices for that. I might actually do that just because I love that. No, I think I'm gonna stamp at the bottom because I had left this white space there anyway.
there's your white
So
space,
it just makes sense. So I'm just gonna make sure this is nice and straight on my block here. And then I'm gonna take my rainbow ink pad. I'm just gonna press it in here, and then I'm just gonna, I usually like to tap up and down like this, so then that way you get a nice even rainbow across your entire sentiment. And then I'm just gonna line that up perfectly, and I'm just gonna put it right underneath the rainbow because it just fits perfectly. And I'm gonna stamp with even pressure, and there we have the $5 craft. Isn't it so cute? Ah, I am so happy with that.
3 rainbows there.
I do have 3 rainbows. I just love everything rainbow so much. And I think just to make the sky look a little bit more magical, I'm actually going to add some little dots in here, or you could draw like little stars and things if you wanted to. But because, again, this ink will actually dry directly onto that and it won't smear or anything, I'm just going to do some little dots. Again, just because it adds a little bit more to your card. It makes it not look so blah. And it kind of goes with the speckled look that we already have on the side here and with your watercolor here. So I'm just adding in some little speckles just to make it a little bit more fun. Oh, might as well do some orange ones too. And I'm kind of going with the colors that are already on in the different areas. All right, and there we have it, the Have a Happy Day card. Yay! I'm quite pleased. Yep. Cool. Thanks for joining me, friends. See you guys later.
A little later in the afternoon.